So give me your name and your job title.
Mark Hansen. I'm the chief engineer right now here on the Malaspina. I'm a relief chief, so I bounce around a lot of the other ships, so I'm not the actual permanent chief engineer here on the Mal, but I'm here this week. So.
Okay. Why is your organization concerned about carbon monoxide?
Basically, I think the carbon monoxide, and usually it's the car deck exposures we get with the running engines, but because we have a car deck and we have opportunities where the employees are going to be around those running engines on the car deck and they're putting out exhaust, one of those products is obviously carbon monoxide, and if you do get a lot of exposure to it, and it can build up in your system for a while and kind of make you feel not real good, and of course obviously in high concentrations you can actually, first get sick and then you can even die from it if there's too much, like if you're in a closed space or something.
Right. So even though you spend most of your time in the engine compartment, every deckhand has to be aware of this thing at least when they're around the running automobile engines, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the exhaust is coming right out of the tailpipe into the space that people are actually moving around in, as opposed to, say, the engines for the generators and the main engines down the engine room where we've got the exhaust is actually hard piped going all the way up the stack. Right here you can be working on the car deck with car engines and truck engines that are spewing out exhaust right here in the same area you're breathing. So,
Mark, if all the engines were on, could this conceivably be dangerous even to the drivers of the cars, not just the...
Yeah, eventually, if it gets like if for some reason the doors were closed and the ventilation was down, or even if the ventilation wasn't adequate, or every once in a while up in Alaska we get people come on board with kind of old cars that aren't really tuned real well, and sometimes we'll even have just like some old logging truck will crank up and it'll just stink up the whole, one truck will stink up the whole car deck with a bunch of other stuff, and I'm sure if it's spewing out the other bad stuff you can actually see and smell, I'm sure there's plenty of carbon monoxide in there too. So it can be something that people have to be aware of.
Right.
So.
We got doors open here. Talk about ventilation and how crucial that is.
Well, the ventilation, we on the car deck when we're in port and doing any kind of vehicle operations, we usually open up as many of the doors as we can just to get any kind of natural ventilation. They're secured right now so you don't hear them because we just completed fueling, but we also have vehicle exhaust fans that are also up there to sweep the air out and make sure there's an exchange of air to make sure we don't have a buildup of vehicle exhaust emissions kind of lingering here on the car deck. Another procedure is that the deckhands are really big on making sure that people don't start up their cars till they're actually ready to start them up and move, as opposed to, if you're way back here in the pack and it's going to be 20 minutes before it's going to be your turn to drive up the ramp or whatever. We don't want people just idling their cars and trucks here. Right. So and that can be a danger to whether they're crew members or passengers. If it starts building up here on the car deck, it can be a problem. But usually the ventilation is pretty good to where that's not a big problem.
He's being effective on the monoxide. If I'm a newbie, never worked in this industry before, and I look out at this car deck, what are some of the other hazards besides monoxide, that kind of safety 101 that you need to be aware of if you're going to operate on one of these?
Well, just for being on the car deck, obviously we got, when we're doing loading and unloading operations, you're going to have moving vehicles driving around. There's a lot of stuff going on. Sometimes the drivers are paying attention to something else or whatever, and if you're not paying attention, you might run into their way or whatever, or you don't want to walk into the path of a car when a deckhand is waving someone down and getting in the way of that. We also have all these little tie downs and stuff all over the deck that stick up out of the deck. That's a tripping hazard. Other tripping hazards can be, there might be some pallets out on the deck. We might be running some hoses for fueling or slops or something like that also. And, just kind of basic awareness, be aware of vehicles moving around and stuff on the deck to trip on is, I think, the big things for the car deck.
Yeah, I was we did a film once with Tote, and Total Motion Trailer Express, and they got professional truck drivers on and off. Well, this is kind of amateur hour. I mean, you got grandma and grandpa and teenage kids, and these are not professional drivers.
Yeah.
Is that an issue, the distracted driver?
Well, they're still always under positive control of the deck force, and the deck force is pretty used to, making sure that they, when it's time for a driver to move, they're going to be like, eyes on me, follow me, and they make sure that they've got the eye contact going back and forth between them and the next driver coming up. And so the deck guys are pretty good at just keeping control of everything, and everybody's used to the idea that there are going to be the people that are looking around or confused or not sure what to do, and maybe they're not the greatest driver off the ship and all that, and so they're just kind of used to it.
Yeah.
So
is this a ship like this for a deckhand inherently more potentially hazardous than your run-of-the-mill because you got all this traffic on that?
I probably have to ask a deckhand about that. I mean, there is some traffic and stuff down here on the ro-ro deck, and basically, the big cargo handling that these ferries really have is, the vehicles coming on and off. We're not doing, loading containers like on a container ship or like on a bulk carrier, all the things that they do. So, and I think talking to someone from the deck force who'd worked elsewhere in the industry, they could probably compare better how this is versus another ship for a deckhand. But
in your experience, have you seen close calls or accidents on the deck, and the ro-ro deck?
I'm sure there's been. I mean, every once in a while, someone doesn't quite make a turn or whatever, and might dent their car against another car or the side of the ship or something like that. Or, I can't think of anything that's ever been any kind of major accident where anyone's been like hurt or anything like that. But I think the occasional fender bender has happened in the past. So.
Here comes a big truck. It looks like it might be spewing something.
Yep, that's our slop truck.
Oh, is it?
So.
Yeah.
So. Like I said, someone from the deck force would know a lot better as far as all the, the car deck operations and everything else that they do.
So. Well, thanks for talking to us. Good answers.
Okay.
Appreciate it.